Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's so nice to see you all. So today, all right. Welcome. It's day 10. How exciting. It's been so incredible to receive all of your beautiful emails, your questions, to witness you diving into this beautiful relationship between you and food. It's just been such an honor. So today I want to answer any of your questions that I have not answered, and also really talk about what it means to bring sacred to the plate. I know that this, presenting this and really encouraging you to make your decisions for yourself is quite a bit different. From working with people for so long, everybody just wants me to tell them what to eat. And sometimes that is important so that you can clear up the connection between your brain and your stomach and your spirit and your body. And really, at the end of the day, we all know what we need to be eating. I know that there are some nuances with what you're eating as far as weight loss and keto or whatever journey you're on. That's the easy stuff. We have so many resources to find out what you need to be eating. It really, when you cultivate that core relationship between you and food and the clearing those channels up, it's a lot easier to make those decisions. So when I brought Moss on in the beginning of these 10 days, the reason why I brought him on, and I hope you've re-listened to that, if you have confusing patterns or you have limiting patterns, or you have like stickiness between your spirit and your body, to really be able to listen to that sacred message from your plate, that's why I brought him on, so that he could get into a little bit deeper and clear that connection. And then it's up to you with free will to cultivate that connection. And it is a practice. It's a daily practice, just like any loving relationship is a daily practice. And I often feel like people have the misunderstanding that you've arrived with nutrition. Oh, I'm vegan. I've arrived. And that's not really the case. With any sacred relationship you have, there's an ebb, there's a flow, there's a getting to know you a little bit more. Oh, that didn't work today. Let's try this tomorrow. Just because you found something that works today doesn't mean it will work for you tomorrow. So I want to acknowledge that I know it can be frustrating when you ask me, just tell me what I should be eating exactly and specifically for the next 10 days for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's a difficult question to answer because what may work for me doesn't work for you. What I see for one client may not work for another. So I really want to empower you. And notice that when I offer you that empowerment, what is the conversation that pops up? What are the frequencies, the energies, the words? Oh, I have this, I can't that. Oh, I just am too busy. Listen, we have so many resources that even if you are burning the candle at every single end possible, there is a resource for you to have healthy food. It is a privilege. It is an honor. There's so much abundance that's kind of the problem, right? And so if you say to me, I work from 6 a.m. to 3 a.m. and I don't have time to prepare my food, there's a resource for you. There's always a resource. And some of the feedback of, I do this when I get stressed, there has to be a deeper desire to establish and cultivate the relationship between you and food that is greater, that is more grand than your stress. And remember, they work in hand. So by choosing certain foods because you're stressed can cause more stress on the nervous system. And you already know that. I know that you are brilliant beings having this incredible time, space, human experience. And you really do know what your body needs when you really listen. I know that. And it's been incredible to hear some of that. So I'm going to start off answering a couple of, oh, Sandy, that's so beautiful. She says, I've discovered through this program that it's more about the energy we put into our wellness and the food that it is about the quantity of time. Yes, I need my glasses. It's like a fine line. I'm so close to being able to, obviously I read the words, but to really make sure I've got them all, I need my ridiculous glasses. So life is joyful, right? And so is food. And that's really beautiful. The comments of experiencing something a little bit deeper with your plate has been really incredible. And the willingness on your part to really just pause. So I'm going to answer a couple questions, then we're going to talk a little bit more about bringing sacred to your plate. That is just such a passion of mine. Because when we can bring in that sacred moment, it really does make such a difference in how we absorb nutrients in our body, the gifts that the plate is offering us, the choices that we have, the choices that we make, the resources that we create, all of it, all of it, all of it. Okay, I'm just going to get my glasses on for these. Oh. Marjorie asks if I recommend a weekly break from the chosen lifestyle of eating. So, for example, going out to eat and having something on the menu that you may not normally have. Of course, variety is the spice of life. It's really important. It's amazing. And what happens when you give your body a break? You become more aware of what you're doing. And for some reason, the frequency of falling asleep at the wheel is something that humans have adapted collectively. Maybe we go to a restaurant, we kind of fall asleep, we'll get the same thing. I'm guilty of it too. And I go to yoga. I love sitting in the same corner. I don't know what it is. I get there 30 minutes beforehand, just have my little corner, and it creates safety. It just feels so wonderful over there. So I think sometimes we're on repeat, but when we put ourselves into a different situation, you know, nature is like that. It's ebbs and flows and has all, not only the seasons, but the natural things that happen for it to regrow. So I love that idea of choosing different things because it brings more awareness to that moment. Whether you like the choice you made or not, it's like, oh, well, next time I'm just going to get my favorite thing. But why? Understanding what your real drive and why is, I think, is really a beautiful seasoning to your plate. So let's see here. Oh, good. Thank you, Margie. So Jill says, can you talk a little bit about fasting and someone who's already gone through menopause? Absolutely. I can talk about it firsthand. I've heard that fasting might not be good for different stages of a woman's life. Also, what frequency in hours do you think is good? Like a couple times a week? I'm so glad you brought up fasting because it's a highly spoken about conversation. It's something that I teach. It's something that I experience in my own life. So with my clients, I'll speak on the fact that all humans, male and female, we do have our cycle. And whether we are ovulating or we are premenopause or postmenopause, it absolutely affects our hormones when we fast. And there is a woman, Dr. Mindy Peltz, and she wrote a book called Fasting Like a Girl. That is such an amazing book. I love it. It's an easy read. And so if you're ovulating and you're trying to conceive, I think it's a perfect book. Like it would take me too long to lecture on it. So I'm going to defer you to that book. For premenopause and postmenopausal women, it definitely makes a difference with fasting. Now, before I go there, I'm going to pin the menopause subject to the side and say that no matter who you are, when you're fasting, if you adapt a fasting lifestyle and you take on that fasting lifestyle for a couple of years or even 6 months or 2 years, your body will acclimate. How do you know when your body's acclimated? You just don't get hungry anymore. That's the number one sign your body is acclimated. Well, why would it be bad for your body to acclimate? No, your metabolism does go down when it acclimates, because your body is a miracle and amazing and says, you know what, I know the gig, I know what we're doing. I need to go into survival mode, and I need to slow down the metabolism so that, we can survive. So anything we do on regularity, same thing over and over and over again, our body will acclimate. That's why I've said you develop that relationship with your plate, and variety will start to come in. You can listen to your body when you should fast, when you should not fast. But generally speaking, one thing that works for one person doesn't work for another person. And I've had people who get on the ketones and fasting, and they don't want to get off, and people who are only doing sugar burner and they don't want to get on the other. But variety is really important, just like any sacred relationship. If you did the same thing with the same conversation, with the same person, and the same sort of intimacy, you feel the dead frequency. It's not thriving. Variety and exploring and curiosity is what makes us thrive. So unpinning the menopause, after post-menopause, which I am, then your body has a larger range of capability to go into fasting. However, protein is more important for any person out over the age of 50, 52, 55, different for different people. Because when we lose muscle mass, we become weak and our skin gets really loose on our body, more so for women than men. And I think it's because women are a little more affected hormonally than men are. So men with testosterone, women with all of it, and our skin starts to sag. So when women are hardcore keto and fasting post-menopause, the results that I see is sometimes it's good to lose some excessive weight. And then when you lose the weight, find a lifestyle that you can promote protein, healthy, rigorous, thriving, strong body. Being super thin is not all it's cracked up to be. We don't want to be frail as we go along the time-space continuum. We want to be strong. So I noticed that even in my own body, that, it was really fun to feel thin, and then I didn't like feeling too thin. And I see that with a lot of my clients. A lot of clients have the saggy skin. I get that question all the time. So preventative with a lot of protein, some collagen, exercise, burn, bump up against your stress with working out, but putting too much stress and the cortisol is kicking off also can be not necessarily work for you. So I hope that helped your fasting. So for what I suggest to my clients and what I do for myself, I know I talk a lot about what I do for myself, because what works for me may resonate with you, and what works for me may not resonate with you. So for me, I vary it. And I ask my spirit, I pause before, I'm like, oh, what is my body really craving, needing, wanting to thrive today? And the more you practice that, the stronger the answer is. I mean, it's loud. It tells me very clearly. And it's not always restrictive. It's really not. I also have gained a skill set of deciding with what thriving foods I want to eat, protein, carbohydrates, fats, the combination thereof. What am I doing today? What sort of greens and nutrients do I need? What sort of fuel? The conversation that I have is just ever so flowing. So it's a beautiful practice to have. And I will continue to teach more. Thanks, team. Yeah, Dr. Mindy Peltz is really great. She's all about fasting lifestyles. And I think that fasting lifestyle is wonderful. And I also feel like all food lifestyles can be very beneficial for us. So sometimes when somebody gets dogmatic and stuck on one, and that you have to have this, she does talk about variety, which is really wonderful. She talks about different groups of people, like menopause, perimenopause, women who are trying to have babies, men, why it's a little bit easier for them, hormonal changes, all of that. She's the fasting guru, and it's in my book. And she has so much wonderful, bright energy. And she just recently started saying that fasting her link is right above your name, Reem. I also feel that she just started talking about how the ebb and flow, and some days you really shouldn't fast. So I was really happy to hear her say that. Okay, let's look at these Q&As. You know what, Sandy? She asked if I personally emphasize taking animal protein, meats, or mainly plant-based. For me and my body, what works for you and your body? I was vegan, vegetarian for almost 2 decades of my life. And I had somebody come to me and mention that I probably should think about animal meat. And it was really hard for me because I thought of it as flesh. And who wants to eat that? That sounds horrific. And I decided to find a way that felt really good because I'm a real sensory person, not necessarily emotionally sensory, just a sense. So I found something that felt good to my senses. And I've had a client recently whose childhood had that sort of trauma where her father would go and take the chicken and then she'd see it on the plate. And there was some sort of disconnect and connect that was so traumatizing for her. And we use this technique of finding a sensory. So what is a no and what is a yes? A yes is I know my body is asking for it. And what am I willing to do? Well, I'm not willing to cook it. Okay, no problem. You can find healthy meats and have somebody else cook it. Eventually I was able to cook it. Well, where was where were the boundaries for me? I had put a bunch of seasoning in the pan and then cut open the ground beef. And if I just got it in there, the seasoning, as long as I didn't smell the meat, okay, I'm good with that. And I developed this relationship, just like with any relationship, right? What do you like? What do you not like? What are you willing to do? And I'm telling you, my body and my client that I just told you about, our bodies were revived with animal protein. And there was a part of me that was just like, oh, dang it. And I realized this is what my body is asking for. So for me, as I focus on animal protein and I drink a lot of whey, just mixed with water, because my body is requiring like 3 to 4 times as much protein as I ate when I was younger. And just recently, over the last month, my body is like protein, protein, protein. And it's kind of hard for me. I don't have a huge appetite for me to consume enough food. So that's why I drink the whey. And I noticed the skin on my legs were starting to plump up. You know, my body changes and responds immediately. Try one way, my stomach was like, no, I'm going to try it again. I said, no. All right, one more time. I have this like in threes sort of rule with or not really rule, but try something 3 times. And then the third time, my body was like, I said no. I said, okay, is it the way or is it the ingredients? There's this one particular ingredient in it that doesn't work for my body that I had to investigate. And through that intimacy of the relationship with it, I discovered it, found a different way that doesn't have it in it. And even though the science says that's not as effective of a way, it's actually better for my body. And now I love it. And I feel really fortified and I'm able to continue trail running and not feel sore and injured. And my recovery is really high. So I hope that helps. Oh, and also some scientists say that your body doesn't know the difference between animal protein and plant protein. Although, what does your digestion say? And how many, what path are you on right now? Because everybody's path is different. Are you most across the board for vegans, most nutritionists, scientists, it's a community agreement that if you really do a vegan diet, you need to supplement. So if you have to supplement for something in your life that's a dietary choice, just ask yourself why. You may not be getting everything you need. And I really believe that we can get everything that we need from this abundant planet we're on. Right. Yes. Oh, good. You're welcome, Ann. All right. Marjorie says, I love how participatory you are. Thank you. If I do celery juice first thing in the morning, will fruit still be absorbed? Whatever we put on an empty stomach is what is first absorbed. And then our juices get flowing. So when when I am coaching people or directing or guiding them, that's a much better way of saying it, through a fasting lifestyle, and we are approaching where you're going to reintroduce foods, choose the food you want in your system first. So if you need more protein, have it be protein. If you need more gut biome, have it be plant diversity probiotics. I take my probiotics first thing in the morning when I wake up. Because of that. And it's really healed my gut that I didn't even know needed healing. So sometimes we don't know what we don't know until the light shine has been shown on it. So I didn't know. I was starting to take some probiotics just for my clients because I take everything that I have ingested or put on my face, everything that I've recommended to any of you. And sometimes in excess, so that I make sure that for those of you who are sensitive, it's not going to make it, not going to harm you. So, yeah, I healed my gut and didn't really realize it because I was looking for a probiotic and found the seed company, which I've mentioned, team, if you happen to have that. So any of these things I'm recommending, I'm not endorsed by, it's something that I love. So the seed probiotic has a bunch of scientists came together, and it's a capsule inside of a capsule, I think maybe 3 capsules. And it really has the opportunity to get way down into your digestive system. And yeah, I was really surprised, and I've had really great results with my clients as well. So was the colon cleanse supplement you recommended? Yes. So Greg's Vita Supreme colon cleanse, I always call it, it's hydrocolon cleanse, but I call it Oxybal because I've known him for so long. That's what it used to be called. That he changed the formula recently because I ordered a new bottle. I don't know how long it's been since I've taken the old stuff, or the previous stuff, I should say. And I noticed that the capsules are smaller and it's much more gentler. So the last 3 nights I've been taking 2 capsules before I go to bed, and it has been assisting really well with the seed probiotic. So I really love whatever he formulated, whatever he shifted has been fantastic. And I think on the bottle it says take between 3 and 5 if you want a real cleanse. But the 2 was great magnesium, very absorbable in the body. It's really beautiful. Thank you, team. And then sugar-free electrolytes, the Ultima is my favorite. LMNT, Element, is also another really wonderful one. It kind of has a saltier taste to it. And I like salty and I like sweet. And Ultima is sweetened with stevia. So some people that doesn't work for them, but stevia is fine in my body. And until I found monk fruit, that's all I sweetened anything with. Sometimes I still use the liquid stevia, but monk fruit's now my jam. Blue Marine says, Alli, thank you so much for this amazing program. Oh, you're so welcome. Still have a question. 55-year-old female, but still have belly fat. Do you have a strategy to eliminate belly fat? Great question. Bad news. There's no such thing as spot reduction. I'll say that again. There's no such thing as spot reduction on your body. So if you say, I really like having a big booty, but I really want my tummy to be flat. It takes a very strict and focused strategy to do something like that. Meaning you'd have to build the muscle in your booty, and you'd have to do other things to reduce the stomach fat. Our fat on our stomach is generally cortisol and stress and hormones. So if you're 55, you're about my age, and that means that, your hormones, either you're postmenopause, there are many different factors, but there's nothing to say, like when I do fasting and I get really thin, there goes my butt. And I don't feel as strong. I really like feeling strong. Wherever you love to feel in your body. And I personally think my belly should have a little soft something. I'm not a huge fan of a woman looking ripped. Just not my thing. And most masculine men that I speak to really like a woman to feel like a feminine woman and soft. So I think that for you and your body image and loving yourself is extremely important. And if you do feel stressful conversations or situations, it really helps lower cortisol for you to even walk around the house, gently walk around the block, do things that when we have a cortisol boost, that we actually use it because those hormones will store as fat. And your fat cells on your body expand and contract. It's not adding more fat cells. It just swells up or it goes down. So we don't get new ones. That's why when people have liposuction, their fat cells that they still have on their body will expand. And they're like, oh, I gained weight again. It's just an expansion of your public storage arena. So having more of a conversation with your body. I had a client numerous years ago who I'll never forget her. She was during corporate nutrition programs. So I love to go into corporations and do a fun nutritional program to build team building. And believe it or not, it's a really beautiful way, playful. Everything I do is really playful. And she was sitting to my right and she had this huge Diet Coke sitting on the table, my day one. And she was kind of sharp and bitter. And she said, you're never going to get me to stop drinking this. I said, you're right. I'm never going to ask you to stop drinking that. You're absolutely right. So through our playful 6 weeks, she chose upon herself this addiction of this huge Diet Coke to shift. She had a green drink in her hand toward the last of it. I want to say it was the last week we were having this conversation around the table. And she was feeling really good. And she was just happy about all these choices that she made with herself and her new relationship with food. And then she pointed to her stomach and she said, but what about this? What about this? And she starts bad mouthing her body. And I said, okay, hang on. First of all, you're bad mouthing your body. Second of all, that part of your body that you're pointing to inspired you to even sit at this table and listen to what I had to say because you wanted change. And you've gone to doctors and nobody can figure out what it is. So you've tried all these wild ways of creating a relationship with your body through these 6 weeks. Can you just do one? I'm going to invite you to do one more thing. Speak a little nicer to your body. Just be like, oh God, this is amazing. When you touch your body, when you put the lotions on, like I've explained in the videos in the previous days, really have that relationship with your body. Your benevolent spirit is coming through your body to have this experience. So 2 weeks later, I see her at an event that I was presenting this corporate nutrition for another company and asked her to come in and speak as a testimonial. And she showed up and I was like, wow, look at you. Her whole body had shape shifted just from the loving of it. And she said at the beginning, I was like, I love you, body. I love you, body. And she's like, I don't think that's very authentic. So 2 weeks of her really loving and connecting with her body in the here and now and present moment shape-shifted her body. So I invite all of you to do that. It's a really beautiful, beautiful practice. Okay, I hope that helped. Made some sense. Oh, beautiful. It's a really wonderful practice. And again, it is a practice. It's something that you do repetitively. Every time I take a bath, every night, it's this luxurious moment. And sometimes I'm only in the bath for 5 minutes because I have things that led up to it, or, a meditation coming up, or I have something that I don't have much time. And yet I always create enough time. I always create that sacred time with myself, no matter what chaos is happening in my life, no matter what is happening. You can always create time, even 3 minutes in the bath. And I've now gotten down to where I run the tub and I know the tone of the water running to know when I need to go back in and it's getting close to being at the top. Practice, right? The relationship I have with the tub. And then when I get out and I dry myself off, the relationship between the lotion and my body and my spirit, it's what it's all about, I think. So, no, the probiotic is not from Greg's company. It's from a different company. It has a capsule inside of a capsule inside of a capsule. And I feel like that's really helpful because your stomach acid will, destroy most of anything that you put into it. The colon cleanse is from Greg's company, and I recommend that whether you're fasting or eating. And it's best on a more empty stomach. So even if, I'm not fasting, I love to go to bed with a pretty empty stomach. And then sometimes my body is asking for even carbohydrates or bone broth or something that's more soothing to the system. So you'll know the difference between your emotions and what your spirit really wants the more you practice with this sacred relationship. Oh, good. Great. Yes, trace minerals can be really important. Unflavored and unsweetened, I think element, LMNT, or sea salt would be unflavored. Anything else? Okay. Any last questions before I go on to the sacredness of my glasses, the sacredness of the plate? I believe that the more clear we are between the connection of our body and our spirit, the more naturally joyful life is. And Sandy, my collagen is bone broth. It's the purest form of collagen. And I drink bone broth almost every day, unless when I defreeze my bone broth and the bag is broken and it's all over my kitchen like it was yesterday. It's my favorite chicken bone broth, bison bone broth, beef bone broth. So I really believe, not only I believe, I know with everything that I know that our relationship between spirit, body, and plate is that trifecta, right? Everything on my plate is from the earth, animal, plant, any of it. And to create the sacredness only takes a moment and practice. And as you create that, then your vibration of your cells radiates higher. And as the vibration of your cells radiate at a higher frequency, then the frequency from your spirit is able to be embodied with so much more grace. It is such an incredible experience that when you're having a detox because you're experiencing high frequencies, when you have a trauma or when you have a conversation, or when you have whichever end of the spectrum that you want to talk about, when your body is vital, those things ebb and flow with so much more grace. And I speak upon this from experience, not only with my clients, but from myself. I really believe that when we teach something that we are embodying every day as a daily practice, that it is felt on the recipient's end. And that's the same thing when our spirit is communicating with us and we're practicing what we really want, which is clear connection between our spirit and our body, that incorporating the higher vibration of food. And it's different for every person. You are a unique song, a symphony of frequencies that is unique to you, which is so beautiful. That's why what you eat is so unique to yourself. Not one diet works for everybody. That's so beautiful. And not many people are really teaching, if any, that you discovering what works for your unique symphony and you having free will to choose what you need to choose, and notice in those moments when you get in your own way of choosing something that's healthy. And instead of saying, I can't do this, I have to stop this, how about asking better questions? Wow, am I really poisoning myself? Like, what? Why would I do that to myself? Oh, it's convenient. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's just noticing the conversations that you have and you're within yourself on the plate. Pausing for a moment. I love doing this. It just takes a nanosecond. In the beginning, it might be more of a dramatic pause. And then as you practice it, it becomes second nature. It becomes nature. It becomes who you are. You begin to eat healthy because you are healthy. When you eat healthy because you're worried about being sick, that is a different vibrancy than you're eating healthy because you want to be skinny, or you're eating healthy because you don't want to age. What about eating healthy because you are healthy? When somebody asks me, well, what do you splurge on? Probably a $25 green shake from organic place down the street. Like, that's how I celebrate. Or I make that beautiful cheesecake that was in the recipe. Thank you for sending the picture of that. It's so, like, that's a splurge to me. Spending as much money as I want to on the lavish, beautiful, healthy foods that my body wants, of the local eateries, the local rancher, all of these incredible, the local dairy person. I love that. And they should be charging more because it is absolutely worth it. And I that's how I feel that I splurge when I eat. I don't find poisonous food a splurge. I just don't. Does that mean I never eat cake? No, it depends on what the cake is, what the occasion is, all of that. Just like with your intimate relationship, right? It depends on who and what the situation is or whatever. It is an intimate moment. It is such a sacred privilege to have these incredible foods on our plate. It really, really is. And so I love, maybe in the beginning, the dramatic pause where you say, okay, here's my food. I think that originally prayer with food was that honoring, was about being so thankful that we have this food in front of us, and we've lost that, or we've changed that, or over time that's shifted. And I love to pause and look at my plate and think, how many people went into putting this in front of me? It's so incredible. So let's say I have 5 different things in my salad, which probably goes without saying, I have more than that. But in those 5 things, how many people went into putting the 5 things on my plate? And the passion that went into putting this on my plate, the vision that went into putting this on my plate. Just pausing for a moment. And then when you're eating, noticing the texture and the taste and how my body is responding. Those are all sacred practices. And you can still have conversation with your friends and the people that you care about. You're just not leaving your plate behind. Does that make sense? You're not falling asleep at the wheel, because I think what happens is that we get all the right stuff on our plate, check, or we don't get the right stuff on our plate, or we get the things that our emotions are craving, or however the food comes to our plate, and then we fall asleep. We're with our friends. We're just eating numbingly. We're not really even with the food that's in front of us. So in the beginning, a little bit more of a dramatic pause, like, wow, and really being with it. Because how many of you have had the experience where you go out to a restaurant and the food looks like art and it's so beautiful, and you're talking with your friends and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so great. You take one bite, everybody's quiet. You're like, oh, you can have that with practice without that big dramatic experience. And then, somebody, Lisa, oh, I'm craving crispy duck. It's not about making food bad and good. What kind of oil is the duck cooked in? And when we ingest oils that are poisonous to our body treats it like a poison. So when our bodies ingest poison, it doesn't always necessarily get rid of it as soon as possible. Sometimes what it does, often what it does, is it's doing trillions of other things. And it says, you know what? I don't have time for this. I'm just going to put it in the public storage unit, which is your fat on your body. And when it does that, then later on, when you do a cleanse or you do fasting, that's when it goes to the public storage units and it eliminates that, and you feel icky when you're doing a cleanse because your body doesn't have time to take care of the poisons that you're eating in the moment that you're eating it. So when you have a sacred relationship with food, then you're thinking about all the ingredients that are going into that moment. And when you're looking at your plate through the eyes of your spirit, I love that metaphor. I love looking at my plate, how my spirit is experiencing this pleasure of food. Would it really choose poisonous foods? Or would it be resourceful in finding things that are sweet, that are better for your body, that it doesn't see as a poison? And finding those resources, that's the easy part. The part that takes more awareness is that detail and noticing all the meticulous details of your food, what you're choosing, why you're choosing it. Why do you want to be healthy? So your spirit, your benevolent spirit, has an amazing vessel, and it's tying earth in with that spirit right here. Right here. So I hope that's making sense. I'm bringing more sacred to the plate. Okay, let me look at these. Yes, Sandy, I do too. That's how I see my plate, is I look at my plate through the eyes of my spirit. I look at life through the eyes of my spirit. When we experience higher frequencies, when we have this beautiful resource of frequency work to clear up all of the patterns, then we're able to more clearly see this existence through the eyes of our spirit. How would your plate look different? What is your motivation and why for choosing anything healthy? Is it just regimented? I need to know the rules. I'm just going to go about this because I want my butt looking good. Well, guess what? By the way, your butt will look great if you look at your plate through the eyes of your spirit. It's the way it works, right? We render ourselves the way our spirit is experiencing this time space. It's an incredible thing. I tell people that all the time. Don't focus on that. Oh, by the way, your butt's going to look great. Focus on seeing your plate with this sacredness. Noticing when you're eating, when you're not eating, when you're falling asleep. Don't try to change it, just notice it, because that noticing will create the change in and of itself. And when your body is aching, it's doing its best to tell you what is going on, that what you're eating, what your rituals are with your food is either working or not working for you. Your body is never sabotaging you. Ever. There's not one time that your body is self-sabotaging you. It is crying for help when your liver hurts, when your joints are aching, when you have low energy. Those are just signs. Hey, psst, take a right turn. Find some resources. There's a lot of inflammation here. We need some different this. We need some different that. When you look at it through the eyes of your spirit, then it becomes a curiosity rather than like, oh no, I've got to do this, because there's two different frequencies. Noticing the core of why we're doing what we're doing. Does that make sense to you guys? I can feel that it does make sense. I can sense that. Oh, so dry brush. What brand of bone broth? It depends on where you live. I love local resources. So when people ask me, well, what kind of water and how do you find the water? Use your zip code and look for water store in your area. Look for bone broth in your area. Farmers markets often have them. Almost every area has farmers market, unless I'm just complete boulder bubble. I could be. I find a lot of resources that way. So I encourage you to do the same. And with dry brushing, there's a million of them on the market. All of them are amazing. See what feels good on your body. And I know there are a lot of how-to videos on start here and do that. Just brush your body. Just brush your body. I do it before I get in the bath. And then if I get in the bath and I haven't done it, then I have another brush that's a harder bristle that I like to scrub over my body when I'm already in the bath. Ease, joy, not having something else to do. When you really, truly just love this body that we're living in, then the light of ease will be shining upon you. Hope that makes sense. So for heavy metal detoxes, and I think, Dorothea, I had responded to one of your emails, and I'm so glad you brought it up, because any sort of very intense detox, sometimes fasting doesn't even get rid of heavy metals. Having the assistance of a naturopathic doctor is really, really important. So if you feel like your body is really struggling, yes, autophagy can take care of a lot of things and doesn't always take care of everything. So just going, any fast past 72 hours is really not doing anything beneficial for your body, from my point of view. And if you're fasting and you still feel like you're not detoxing, then it may be important for you to go and get some blood work. And also, when you come from the point of view of curiosity, then finding the right naturopathic doctor will just appear for you. Seeing it with curiosity. You know what? I'm going to figure this thing out. My body is amazing. My spirit is so capable of healing my body. It happens over and over again. And it doesn't mean that you have to do it all alone. Finding the right guide will appear when you have the right viewpoint. Okay, good. I'm glad it makes sense. So it's really important. Some of the heavy detoxing really requires somebody who specializes in those. And I can't, being on Zoom is a little too distant for me to help you there. I would, as far as finding the right person to help you with detoxing, again, I love to do research in my area, and I use my zip code, and I look for reviews on naturopathic doctors, and I look for reviews that talk about specifically what I'm looking for. So if it's a metal detox, then I look for that with a naturopathic doctor. I'm sure you could go with somebody online, and I never pass up the opportunity to seeing somebody face to face. That's why this whole online program was so unique and different for me, because I do pretty much everything person to person. And this year I decided to do online so I could connect with all of you beautiful people, and am planning a couple of face-to-face experiences this year. So that's really exciting. Oh, Anne, that's so really beautiful. I'm glad that you're getting it. And it's a really, really beautiful thing when we can connect more with our plates. I mean, how often do you go and eat and then you realize that you're licking your fingers if you do that, or that you're putting the plate away and you weren't really even with the food in that moment? Or how often do you sit down and then you get on your computer while you're eating? And then you tell yourself, well, I have to. I mean, how long does it really take you to eat a meal, even if you're in a hurry? Not that long. And so it doesn't take a long time to really be with your food. And yet it takes a long time to heal when we're not with our food, like healing of disease or inflammation or problems or things that our body are trying to tell us aren't working. It takes longer to be in the hospital than it does to be present. And so that's really what I'm presenting to you by bringing sacred back to the plate. Is presence is a sacredness. It is the most sacred moment. It is the moment. It is the golden moment, being so present in your body and with your food and with your spirit. It's like the magic trifecta. It's so incredible. Any last questions? And as far as what blood work, Jill, I would say find that naturopath that you really connect with. And then they can help guide you with the blood work. You can see how your liver and all of your organs, and just really, I invite you to keep in mind that if you go to it from a point of view of fear, then you're going to also attract that naturopathic doctor that's going to either be supportive or, remember, we are what we attract. Oh, thank you, Sandy. You're so welcome. Participating in this program, I gained valuable insight into many of my patterns around wellness. Isn't it amazing how your patterns show up on your plate? Yeah. So in our closing, yes. So in our closing, I'm going to talk a little bit about the things that I have. One of the things that I have coming up that I'm creating right now is I have this in-person vision that I would like to create, that I will create this summer. When I talk about the sacredness of food and I talk about being present, creating an experience for people so that you can, an intimate experience where you can really be intimate with food rather than me just talking about it, is the difference between me describing riding a bike and all of us getting on bikes. So in this summer retreat that I'm creating right now on beautiful Pender Island, I want to have an experience for you to be with food, to be with the senses. I have these amazing resources. One of them is this hydrosol drink. So there's no booze in it, and there is so much sensation in it. And like, imagine a jasmine flower. There's two different types of jasmine flowers. There's the morning blooming jasmine and there's the evening blooming jasmine. And both of those essences in a drink, that the inhalation, the scent through your nose goes past all through your neural pathways, past the blood-brain barrier, and igniting new neural pathways in your brain, sending a sensation throughout every cell of your body with every sip. It's so incredible. So offering experiences like that through food, that's just one explanation, that's just one description, is what I would like to do in a semi-intimate 10 people experience. And also having you be with food, with the preparation of it. How do you infuse your own food with your frequencies, with those benevolent frequencies of your own spirit? How do you cultivate that sacred moment? There's a beautiful classic movie like Water for Chocolate, and that whole movie is about your frequency and energy going into the food. So please, it is really amazing, Sandy. I probably could describe those foods and drinks for another hour. Yes, that's how I live in my kitchen. And so I really want to give that to you in person. So through my website, make sure that you're signed up with the newsletter so that you know when those events are coming up. And that's something that can't really be conveyed through the screen, although I gave it a pretty good shot just now. Oh yeah, so there'll be some, I'd like to be offering some, 2-week Medi complimentary. My thing in light of that is that with my newsletter, I feel like often with our newsletters, there's so many things that are asking something of us. And I think that it's really great. I want to know what programs are going on for people that I care about. And I also have this giving nature. I would love for you to open up the newsletter and see that there's a complimentary, meditation or recipe or something, so that again, it is about the relationship between you and I. I really love answering your emails. I really love hearing from you. I really love that this is a relationship, just like the sacred relationship between you and your food. Everything beautiful in life is about relationship. The relationship between you and your spirit, the relationship between you and the trees, the relationship between you and everything is the most sacred thing. And that is what I feel like our pockets are full of when we cross over to the other side. They're not full of gold. They're full of relationships and experiences and energy and glorious beauty. So yes, so wonderful. Any last moments before we say adieu? So tomorrow, or any last questions? Thank you, team. So tomorrow we have a very special celebration, a bonus day with myself and Moss, and we're going to have a conversation about all the sacredness between food and how nutrition really fortifies our body and our frequencies. And then he is going to also do a celebration meditation, which is so wonderful. It's just everything is just so, so beautiful when we look at the world through the eyes of our spirit. People show up around us through the eyes of our spirit on such an incredible, incredible level. So as we say goodbye, remember, nobody can put your fork to your mouth but you. And with reverence and harmony, we choose every bite. It has been such an honor and a privilege to be your guide on this 10-day, and I look forward to our next adventure together. Thank you so, so much.